Come on in, enjoy the view from the On Fek Circle with a distinct buffalo flavor this week. This little misadventure streams at you live every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel, on its Facebook page, its Twitter account, wherever Jays for the Couch little brand is there. We're always there for the watching. And by all means, support JFtC.com in all its various formats. Its podcast episode 261 just occurred last night. That's every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That is hosted by our senior editor and founder, Sean Doyle. Daily, whenever there's a Blue Jays game, there will be a game recap. So tomorrow morning, when you get your coffee, you can find out what really happened in the Blue Jays game today against the Marlins up in Salem Field in Buffalo. And on Thursdays, this same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, it is Sunny Side of the Dome, hosted by Karen Suter. Just, if you have not checked out her show yet, you need to do that. But don't do it right now. Let me finish mine. But as soon as I'm done, go and look at some of the archives of Sunny Side of the Dome. She's on Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. She really makes you feel good, not only as a Blue Jay fan, but as a baseball fan. She has a way of explaining things and pointing things out that, it's not all Homer and all, sunshine and gumdrops. It's just great baseball analysis. So make sure you tune in to Karen Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, the Mothership podcast, Mondays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, the Feckless Wonder, Steve Fek. Great show for you coming up. Honest. I know that's hard to believe for those of you that tune in to other shows that I've not been on, but it's going to be a great show. Please stay until the end. There's a very important topic that we want to talk about, related to Jays from the Couch and the fight against the terrible disease, ALS. But we got some baseball stuff to talk about first. We'll also have a This Week in Baseball, which I think might just intrigue you or piss you off. But either way, I'm glad that you joined us. This is a conversation. This isn't just some goofball American talking at you for 30 minutes at a time once a week. We want your input. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter right now live, please put in your comments, questions. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You don't even have to like me. We want a conversation. We want to know what you're thinking as well, because we spend a lot of time at Jays from the Couch, trying to cover all the bases, but sometimes maybe we're missing something, or maybe we're overlooking something or overemphasizing something. Like my guilty pleasure is pointing out what a disaster Ross Atkins is. We've got 5 more years of it. Imagine that. Last night on the podcast, we talked about Charlie Montoya and his mindset. What is he thinking? Is he thinking, is he really like, a robot that Ross and Mark Shapiro have, programmed to just say, oh, he's our best pitcher. This is what we needed to do. Team is doing what we needed to do. We're following the process. The process is working. It seems like it's a robot sometimes, but it's not. That's not fair. Charlie Montoya is a good baseball man. He just might not be the guy to take us to the promised land. So jump in, tell us your points of view. We want to have a conversation during this show. Anything that I'm talking about, except at the very end of the show in Blue Jays way today, you can interrupt me because probably you're making a better point than I might be. So it's back to the home away from home, part 2. The Blue Jays are now playing at Salem Field in Buffalo for the second consecutive season. A lot of upgrades have happened, at Salem Field. You will probably notice 2 of them right away. One is the bullpens are no longer, beyond the dugout in foul territory on the field. They've actually made and created bullpen areas behind the outfield walls for both teams. And they've changed the lighting to strictly LED bulbs. And for those of you that have night blindness or other issues with your eyes, you're going to appreciate it more than maybe just the average person that's sitting in the stand saying, well, who cares? Who cares? You probably don't know there's LED bulbs in your house or your office or whether they're regular bulbs. But on the baseball field, it will make a huge difference because of the configuration of the existing lighting. Now, they are going to add 2 lighting poles, to Salem Field to try to even improve the lighting even more. We all had to sit through the Yankees whining last year. Oh, we can't see. We can't see. It doesn't matter that we're not selective at the plate and can't run the bases and are horrible fielders and swing at almost everything, but it's the light's fault. Wah, wah, wah. We had to put up with that, last year. We don't need to put up with it anymore. Okay. The lighting upgrades are there. I'm sure for the Miami Marlins, they're not going to really know much of the difference. A lot of their roster probably has played at Buffalo Salem Field within the last season or 2. It's a very, very young team, reminiscent of what the Blue Jays might have been, I would say, last year. I mean, both teams made the playoffs. I mean, the Marlins did a little better than the Jays did, but that was more circumstance with expanded field. So it'll be an interesting little series coming up here. And when we're talking about Salem Field, I wanted to take a look at what happened in Dunedin and the one big lesson and improvement that will come out of the Blue Jays' adventures at TD Ballpark in Dunedin. Okay, what I didn't realize until I looked it up today is that the Blue Jays only had 21 home games. It's the second fewest in Major League Baseball. Only the Mets have had fewer, and they've had 20. But that was mainly because of weather and rainouts. I mean, in the case of the Blue Jays, I don't know whether Major League Baseball anticipated that maybe they'd be in Rogers Center by now. So they had a lot of road games, so they wouldn't have to play as many games, at a minor league facility in Dunedin. But they've only had 21 home games. And when you look at it, everybody says, oh, home runs, it's a hitter's park and all of this. That's kind of true. But the Blue Jays were only 7th in Major League Baseball in home runs in their home field at 38. Again, they had fewer games than just about every team out there. But still, it's not over. It's not like Coors Field in Colorado, where they would probably, even in 21 home games back in the old days of Dante Bichette and Larry Walker and Vinny Castilla and Andres Galarraga, they may have hit, the amount of home runs at home in a short amount of time that most teams would have on a season. But what I found intriguing is they were 25th in Major League Baseball in walks at home. They did walk more on the road. So you got to wonder, did that kind of play in their head? Were they purposely more aggressive at the plate at home than they were on the road? Hard to say. But the numbers that really jump out for Dunedin is they were first in team average at 276. They were second in on-base percentage at 348, and that's probably more because they just didn't walk as much as a team when they were playing at home. They led the majors in slugging percentage at home, 493. They led the majors in OPS at home in just those 21 games of 840. That's pretty impressive. So you can say, oh, Dunedin, that's really benefited the Blue Jays. It didn't benefit them enough because they only had 21 home games. But then you look at how they performed in Salem Field in Buffalo. And all the experts and MLB people are all saying, oh, it should be much of the same as it was in Dunedin as it was in Buffalo. And, last year was an offensive, juggernaut playing at home. I don't know that the numbers point that out. And I'm not talking about analytics in anything that's expected or weighted or plussed. I'm talking about just basic numbers you see on the back of a baseball card. They were 11th in Major League Baseball in home runs last year at 43. They had the same identical team batting average, 276. That was 4th in Major League Baseball. So again, it's a hitter's park, which kind of surprised me. But again, I haven't been up there to see a whole lot of minor league games over the last, 5-7 years. So I remember it being more of a pitching park, but obviously, various dynamics change. they were 7th in on-base percentage. They were 6th in slugging and OPS. So again, it's not a Coors Field effect. It's not a bandwagon, bandbox stadium like this in Cincinnati or Philadelphia or some of the more offensive, Milwaukee, some of the more offensive-oriented ballparks. So I don't know we're going to see a whole lot different approach in production playing at Salem Field as opposed to Dunedin. Well, one thing is that the left fielder, third baseman, and shortstop will not risk blindness in the first 2 innings of every game because the sun will not be setting directly in their eyes. It's just a weird configuration for the ballpark. But again, it was built as a spring training ballpark. It wasn't built for evening games. It was built for spring training. And I guess they didn't care if their 8 players were blinded by direct sun in their eyes when the Dunedin Blue Jays, were in the Florida State League. I guess that wasn't as big of a deal. But I think the one big thing that occurred playing in Dunedin that's going to carry over not only through this year, but through the rest of the ball players' careers is going to be going the opposite way, hitting to right field. And to a lesser extent, for left-handed batters, going the opposite way to left field, but the wind blew pretty much from left to right. So everybody was trying to drive the ball, to right field to have that wind help carry the ball deeper or away from the fielders or into the gaps. That's a good habit to develop. The Blue Jays are predominantly right-handed hitters. So it's going to be a natural thing, I think, for them. So sure, they're going to hunt for the pitch they really want, like the fastball or the curveball, depending on the hitter. But they're going to be more inclined now. It's going to be more of a reflex thing to if the pitch is coming in and it's off the outside of the plate, they're going to go with the pitch and drive it to right field. So opposite field power, opposite field production in general is a wonderful thing. So I think this is a good result of having played games in Dunedin. I will still never understand how they didn't work out playing games at Tropicana Field. Not that Tropicana Field is a palace by any means, but it had to have been a more, even with the rafters and the dome and all kind of weird stuff that happens in that stadium, it would have had to have been a better ball game experience for the players, not necessarily the fans, but the players if they played there. But it's over. And thank you, Dunedin, for hosting the Jays up here through April and May. And maybe the hitters are going to pick up some good habits here. And a question from Tony Mattingly. I think the chemistry and expectations are different from last year to this year. And with the benefits of knowing they did well from last year will only help to benefit them in Buffalo. Oh, absolutely. And thank you for the question, Tony. I think that's a very valid point. They're going to feel at home. They're going to feel truly at home at Buffalo this year. And they know what they were able to, I don't want to say get away with, but what they were able to do that was successful, that was able to generate runs. So again, being in Salem Field as opposed to Dunedin is a very good, is a wonderful thing. I don't know that they're going to produce at the rate that they did in Dunedin. You're not going to have those winds, blowing across hard out to right field. But they really weren't aided that much from home runs go. But I think the approach at the plate was absolutely influenced by the ballpark configuration and the weather conditions there in Dunedin. So it'll be a great thing. As you see, I've got my Bison hat on. I have a soft spot for Buffalo. It's probably my favorite place I've ever lived on this planet. They got screwed twice in the expansion process. They've been waiting for baseball, really going back to when they were talking about expanding back in 61 and 62. That's how long ago Buffalo was thought of. And they played in a mausoleum, War Memorial Stadium. It's like they had a great ballpark. But they finally got Major League Baseball. It's a great city, great sports town. The fans are knowledgeable. And I think it's only going to be a positive experience knowing that you're going to be there. And I need to leave the whole Buffalo situation with one point that I know that the majority of Blue Jay fans are not going to like. This has to be the last move for the Blue Jays. If they make the playoffs and the border restrictions are lifted, and even there's not going to be fans in the stands, if the provincial and federal governments allow the Blue Jays to host playoff games at Rogers Center, by all means, play those games at Rogers Center. That's the kind of move that you don't mind making. But it has been such a roller coaster. What we've experienced with the Jays may be as close to the Negro League experience as far as playing games and having to play and not really having a home field. Like the Homestead Grays didn't always play in Homestead, PA here in Pittsburgh. They played in Washington, D.C., and they played in Cleveland. There was always a rotating group of cities that hosted the Negro League teams. By no means have the Blue Jays gone through what Negro League ball players have gone through. That's not what I'm saying. So before you start typing the hateful tweets and messages, that's not what I'm saying. But it's as close as any major league team has ever come to what the Negro League players had to go through. To ask them to move again, especially those with families. You stayed in Dunedin, okay, you extended your lease for spring training, and you then, go to Buffalo, where you played you're technically in your fan base. Western New York, I would think, has its more than its share of Blue Jay fans. But this has got to be the last move. They've got to finish the regular season in Buffalo. Come hell or high water, that's what you've got to do. And it breaks my heart to say that. And Tony, comes another question. I'm also glad they are done with Dunedin because I've always saw more opponent fans than Blue Jay fans, and the switch to Buffalo should help too. Well, absolutely. The first 8 games are sold out. I tried to get up there, and I was on the phone within the first minute of tickets going on sale. They are sold out. And it is, and Marcus Semien made this point, that he didn't feel like it was really a home field playing in Dunedin because you saw all those visiting jerseys, in the stands. It's the problem that the Tampa Bay Rays deal with year in, year out. Maybe in 10 years, I don't think they're going to be there in 10 years. In fact, if Buffalo pulls this off, I would not be surprised if you start hearing Buffalo being a possible relocation site, because Salem Field was designed almost like a Lego set. So a second deck can be easily added at relatively low cost to make it make it a major league quality stadium. So who knows? But Tony, you are right. It's really annoying to see Philly fans dominate in the Philly series. And it was annoying, to see any of the fans. But that's just what Florida is. Florida really isn't, at least the people that can get out to the ballpark, they're not from Florida. They're from Boston and New York and Philly and Cleveland and all of these other northern cities. So it was very disheartening, and I can see where Marcus Semien was a little bit annoyed by it. But it's not, it is what it is. And I'm thankful that Dunedin was able to pull it off. I mean, I think they exceeded my expectations, except that the ballpark proved to not be a major league caliber ballpark. Even with the improvements and the renovations that Mark Shapiro oversaw, it wasn't a major league ballpark. So I'm going to go to this week in baseball really, really quickly, because there's something I really want to address at the end of the show that I think is way more important than what I think about baseball. But this week in baseball segment is always about something that can be tweaked. I try to keep it Blue Jays centric. And this, to no degree, this would affect the Blue Jays, especially this year. Calling Ross Atkins. Pay attention, please. I think we should have 2 trade deadlines. We should revive the old June 15th trade deadline. And I go, many of you are too young to even remember that June 15th was the trade deadline. But we're going to make it interesting. Interleague trades have to be made by June 15th. You still have a deadline, July 31st. That's within your league. But if you're waiting till July to get that big starting pitcher, let's say Max Scherzer, and you're an American League club, you have to get the deal done by June 15th. And in Blue Jays history, there's all sorts of deals that I, of course, drew a blank on that I'm going to now look at real quick that happened in June that had an impact. And I'm going to tie them into the Blue Jays. We got Santiago Espinal for Steve Pearce. Now, it's certainly starting to pay dividends for us now, but Steve Pearce was the 2018 World Series MVP. That deal happened June 28th. Tony Fernandez coming back to the Jays from the Mets. That happened on June 11th. And Tony Fernandez was not the Tony Fernandez of his first go-around here, but he was a valuable addition to the Blue Jays in 1993. And since if we want to talk about, Shapiro's state of mind and Atkins' approach, we're going to look at Cleveland, 2002. Bartolo Colon got shipped to the Expos, and the Indians got a haul back for Colon. Colon was only there, for a short time. They got Cliff Lee, Grady Sizemore, Brandon Phillips, who they then flipped for additional pieces for their pitching staff, and Lee Stevens. Now, Stevens and Phillips didn't really blossom in Cleveland, but Cliff Lee and Grady Sizemore, those were impact players they got, and that trade happened in June. Now, I will give you a caveat. You can try to sneak somebody through waivers before the deadline to get them from the National League. Good luck on that. Okay. Good luck trying to sneak a real impact player, contract status, irregardless of that, through waivers, as far as an interleague trade would go, if you want to pull off a deal before July 31st trade deadline. So just a thought, a tweak, kind of get things going. I mean, I saw a number that was posted behind the scene at Jays from the Couch. 11% of trades happened in April, 13% in May, 12% in June, and 56% in July. Is it really a crime against baseball purism and strategy to actually be proactive in the trade market? I mean, I certainly don't think so. And then seriously, I think it's beneficial to the players as well, because then there is truly going to be more activity and more young players are going to go from a place where they're either going to have to be rushed in their development or go into a club that can develop them but will give them a chance sooner if you have that earlier deadline. It's just a matter of logistics and going back and following baseball history and not trying to expect it or project it. So just something to think of. Interleague trade deadline, June 15th. Trade deadline, July 31st. If you're trying to get a player from the other league, you got to sneak them through waivers. It also gives each league its own distinct identities to a degree, because there'll be more trades within the league. We're not going to have the DH anymore. So I think it's a win-win tweak for players, for teams, for fans that are so tired of hearing we have to wait 50 games or, oh, well, we have injuries. We have this guy coming back. And no. Just address your needs. And this isn't just Ross Atkins, because we know he's a dope, but he's not, and he's as guilty as anybody of this. But don't just sit back. Make a deal. Brian Cashman in New York needs to make a deal. Dave Dombrowski in Philly is going to have to make a deal if their teams are going to get back in it. I'd imagine Alex Anthopoulos is going to be busy, but not necessarily to add. He's going to subtract. So that's This Week in Baseball. Now the really important meat and potatoes part of the show. Now, tomorrow is Lou Gehrig Day in baseball. And I was going to change to my Yankee cap, but even in such a worthy cause, it would feel dirty to do that. So I'm keeping my bison cap on. But across Major League Baseball, they're looking to raise awareness and raise funding for much needed medical research, patient support, and treatment options. Because ALS, there really isn't a treatment. They can try to make you as comfortable as possible. They can try to help you keep basic functions as long as possible. But it's an insipid disease. It's a cause very dear to the heart of our senior editor and founder, Sean Doyle. It is a very, very near and dear cause for me. I lost a great-grandfather and grandfather. I have lost numerous work colleagues, good friends. And some of you might be rolling your eyes and saying, it's supposed to be a baseball show, so to be a sports show. And we just went through COVID. We're still in COVID lockdowns and restrictions. Okay. The pandemic was horrible on so many levels. But you know what? There were treatment options available. Yes, some people suffered interminably and passed away. Some are going to have lingering health effects, but they survived. There's no surviving ALS. I mean, there are treatments that can make life more manageable and comfortable. But believe me, when we talk about ALS, there's nothing comfortable about it. It'll start with losing, ability to walk and coordination. Then you're going to have problems talking because it attacks. The body is attacking itself. So then you lose your ability to speak. Then it makes it really hard to swallow. So you can't eat. And then eventually the last thing to give out is the heart and the lungs, and you can't breathe. It is the most heartbreaking thing to witness somebody afflicted with ALS to go through what they go through. And there's lots of great stories. The kid from Boston College, Steve Freitas, I think his name was. He was the captain of the Boston College baseball team. He was diagnosed in his early 20s. I think he was 21. He was the inspiration for the Ice Bucket Challenge. Here in the States, there was the Jerry Lewis Telethon, and there was for a lot of neuromuscular diseases, but ALS was one of them. From a more baseball standpoint, the St. Louis Cardinals, in essence, gave Stephen Piscotty to the A's so that he could be near his mom as she was fading away from the disease. And of course, it's called Lou Gehrig's disease in modern day lexicon because of the great Lou Gehrig. So there is a baseball connection to it, but there's also a human connection. And at Jays from the Couch, please go to jaysfromthecouch.com. They do have links there, not only to make a direct donation to ALS Canada, they also have things to the merchandise shop. You can get swag like the shirt you see behind me here. Whoops, that way. And what I have on. You've got coffee mugs. You've got tumblers, all kind of merchandise, clocks, and 100% of your purchase goes directly to ALS Canada to fund their efforts to find, first, a more effective treatment that can elongate life and ideally perhaps secure us someday. So please, right now, and you also go to their Twitter handle at ALS Canada. Share this video there. Share everything with your friends. We're not begging for money. But it is the Blue Jays way to care about community as well as the baseball team. The stands that the Jays have taken and fans have taken against players accused of domestic violence, homophobic comments, you take a pretty hard stance on that. This is truly a life and death thing. So please go to jaysfromthecouch.com. As soon as you get off watching this, click on either the merchandise shop, make a purchase. Any purchase that is made between now and game time tomorrow, the On Fek Circle will personally match and a donation to ALS Canada. So let's get together here, Blue Jay fans, okay? Thanks for tuning in. Sorry to get serious on you, but it's a serious matter. Help support ALS research and awareness. It's Lou Gehrig's Day tomorrow. Make it a celebratory day. We'll be back next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The podcast Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And coming up on Thursday, it's Sunny Side of the Dome with Karen Suter, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.